Hello, and welcome to episode 207 of Dark and Stormy Book Club. This week we are visiting with our first Agatha nominees, Edwin Hill and Lori Duffy Foster. Enjoy. I'm Ann Dark.
I'm Tracy Stormy.
And I'm Kathy Knight.
And together we are
It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club,
a podcast for mystery lovers.
Welcome.
If you enjoy our show, please consider contributing to the Dark and Stormy Patreon. By becoming a patron, you will help us create better and quality content. There are also benefits to becoming a patron, such as exclusive content and Dark and Stormy merchandise. Become a supporter at patreon.com/darkandstormybc. Check our website for the link. We appreciate any and all contributions. Thank you.
Every year, we take a few weeks and meet with a few of the nominees for the Agatha Award. This year, we have 7 authors on our roster, so the next few episodes will be dedicated to those who were nominated for an Agatha Award for 2021. This first interview is with Edwin Hill. He is a nominee for the Best Contemporary Novel for his book Watch Her. The other nominees in this category are Cajun Kiss of Death by Ellen Byron, another friend of the show, The Madness of Crowds by Louise Penny, Her Perfect Life by Hank Philippi Ryan, our third friend of the show, and Symphony Road by Gabrielle Valjean. We congratulate all the nominees and we wish them all the luck in the world. We would like to welcome a good friend of the show, Edwin Hill, who is nominated for an Agatha for the Best Contemporary Novel for his book, Watch Her. Welcome, Edwin.
Oh, thank you so much for having me today.
This is not your first go-round with nominations for the Agatha. Does it get old?
Oh, gosh, no. You spend a long time writing a book and you spend a long time writing it by yourself. And you send it out into the world and you kind of don't know what's going to happen when it goes out into the world. It's so affirming to have anyone say that you like the book. Then for it to be nominated for such a big honor, it really does feel very, very special. And to be nominated with such great other authors, it made my year, I have to say.
I remember the year that we sat at your table at the banquet, you were nominated for your first novel. That was 3 years ago, right?
So in 2018, my first novel, which is called Little Comfort, was nominated for Best First Novel. And then the next year, my second novel, which is called The Missing Ones, was nominated for Best Contemporary. And that was such a bummer because that was the first year that Malice didn't happen. To have something special like that, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it was nothing. I mean, people have suffered much more terrible things than having to miss an award ceremony. And then to have the whole world shut down. And last year, I didn't have a book that was eligible. And then this year, Watch Her was nominated. It's just a wonderful gift and a wonderful surprise.
And next year, you'll be nominated for the new book.
Well, what did you do to celebrate your nomination?
Partner Michael and I, we went out for dinner that night. We do this awful thing called Whole30 every January. You don't drink and you eat well. And so we took the night off from doing Whole30, which was delightful.
Watch Her. I like this book. Of course, I'm a Hester Thursby fan from book 1. I especially like the ending of this one. I won't ruin it for anybody. I really like the ending.
Thank you.
And I would encourage our listeners to read all of Edwin's books. They are page turners.
Yes, they are. And Hester is not your typical protagonist. She's more cerebral.
She's cerebral and flawed. I enjoyed spending 3 books with her and seeing her grow as a character. I'm not working on a Hester Thursby book right now, but I am looking forward to getting back to her, completing the story arc that I started with these 3 books. I have one more thing I need Hester to do to be happy with her as a character. I'm looking forward to doing that with her eventually.
Wonderful. We would love to revisit Hester.
I really like where her character went with Watch Her. She has a longtime partner whose name is Morgan. They went in the direction I wanted them to go as a couple, which was really satisfying for me as a writer. And then Hester has a very conflicted relationship with her childhood and her mother. And I definitely want to dive into that relationship with her mother and see if there can be some healing there.
Very interesting bend on her story.
Well, when we first met Edwin, he was just getting started, and now he's this established author. If you could give the older Edwin advice, what would you have told him?
Oh my goodness, I would tell him a lot of things. One thing I would tell him is to go to Malice Domestic before he had a book contract. I was always nervous about putting myself out there and saying, here I am, I'm looking for success, but I haven't found it yet. So I would have told him to go there and to meet as many people as possible, figure out who would be willing to help him out. I would also tell him to take himself less seriously. I think we all learn that as we get older, don't we? Take yourself less seriously and have more fun.
Those are great words of advice, and especially the malice thing. We tell anybody we interview, especially first-time authors, how important the malice community is, how much they could learn from them.
The amazing thing about Malice, I have to give Sean Riley Simmons kudos. She does such an amazing job in a welcoming community. I think it's really hard to get on a plane or get on a train and go to a hotel where you don't know a single person. If there is one conference where I think you can do that, even if you're like the biggest introvert in the world, it would be Malice Domestic, because Sean does such a great job of making sure that every single attendee is taken care of and feels welcome there.
Oh, does she ever?
The community, we felt at home the first time we walked through the doors. It was just amazing. Well, Edwin, we thank you for talking with us. We wish you all the luck with your award and your books, and we look forward to seeing you at Malice.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
All right, Edwin, you enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will talk soon.
Talk to you soon.
Our next interview will be with Lori Duffy Foster. She is nominated for an Agatha for a Best First Novel for her book, A Dead Man's Eyes. The other nominees in this category are A Turncoat's Widow by Mally Becker, Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala, Murder in the Master by Judy L. Murray, and Mango, Mambo, and Murder by Raquel V. Reyes. They are all on the roster to be interviewed except Raquel V. Reyes. She is in our newsletter for March. So be sure and go back and read the Cozy Cuisine section of the newsletter. We would like to welcome to the program Lori Duffy Foster. She is the author of the book Dead Man's Eyes. She was nominated for an Agatha for a Best First Novel. Welcome, Lori.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. This is such a wonderful podcast. I'm excited to be part of it.
Tell us a little bit about your book.
My book focuses on the protagonist, Lisa Jameson, who is a journalist. Lisa Jameson has done well for a single mom who got pregnant at 15. She's a reporter at a well-respected newspaper, and her teenage daughter is both an athlete and an honors student. Though their relationship is rocky these days, Lisa has accomplished what she set out to do. She has given her daughter the kind of life she never had. But all that changes when Lisa sees her daughter in the eyes of a dead man. The cops call it a drug killing, but Lisa doesn't believe it. She knows her ex-boyfriend was no drug dealer, even though she had not seen him in 16 years. Lisa ignores the warnings from her medical examiner friend. She fails to heed barely veiled threats from the sheriff of a neighboring county. Instead, she risks her life and the lives of her daughter and their closest friend on a dangerous quest for answers. The investigation leaves Lisa fighting for her life in a morbid black market world she never knew existed. She learns that trust is complicated and that she, despite her cynical nature, has been blind. She trusted the wrong people, and now she might have to pay with her life.
Ooh,
So that's it in a nutshell.
that sounds like a good one. I haven't been able to get a copy of it. It's on my list of books that I definitely want to read. That even makes it more so. What gave you the idea to write this book?
Well, it came from a couple of different places. The protagonist, Lisa Jameson, is kind of a culmination of a couple of different people. I'm a former journalist. I had two coworkers who were single moms. I was always floored by how they juggled motherhood and successful careers because they were both very successful. And then the other part of the inspiration comes from a girl I met when I was covering a fire in Syracuse, New York. I was standing on the street waiting for the fire chief or the assistant fire chief, I don't recall which, to come back to me with the cause of the fire. I'd already interviewed people and all that. And I noticed this girl standing next to me, and we struck up a conversation. She was 15 and she was pregnant, and she just really impressed me with her desire to keep the baby, to go to college, and to give her daughter a good life. And she was in foster care when I spoke with her. And then she gave me her name, and her name kind of rang a bell with me. So I went back to the office and I kind of went through all my old notes, my old files on my computer, and I found her name. I had covered a fatal game of Russian roulette at one point, and she shared a name with one of the witnesses in that incident. I'm not sure. I can't honestly say if it's her or not. The ages were the same, but this occurred in another area. I thought that was germs for this novel. I thought, well, what happens to someone like that? This girl's in foster care. She's pregnant. She witnessed this horrible tragedy. Where do you go from there? And what would happen if you became a reporter with that kind of background and that kind of history? And that's where the story began.
The question we like to ask all of our Agatha nominees: what did you do when you found out you were nominated?
I think I squealed. I was so excited. I just hadn't imagined that I would get nominated. So I was pretty excited. I told my husband, I told my twins, I messaged my college student kids, basically told everybody.
As you should. It's something to be very proud of.
Are you planning on attending Malice?
I am. I was supposed to attend last year. It was canceled. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to attend this year.
We'll have to come up and introduce ourselves.
Absolutely.
I can't wait for it either. It's been a long time.
Because it actually was canceled the year before, too. So it's a long time coming.
It is. My publishers are heavily involved in Malice, so I'm looking forward to meeting with them as well.
Is this book going to become a series?
It is a series, and the second book releases on April 12th. It's called Never Broken. It focuses pretty heavily on human trafficking and white supremacy.
Ooh.
Oh, two hot-button topics. Looking forward to that.
Do you have a vision for this series? Do you have a set amount of books or just see how it goes?
I do. I'm almost finished with book 3. I have a contract for 3 books, and I know what I want to do with book 4. I'm not sure if book 4 will bring my protagonist complete closure or not. If it doesn't, then I'll keep going, but if it does, then I'll probably stop and focus more on my standalones again. I have a contract for 3 standalones as well. My first standalone release is in December. So
Is it a mystery?
it is a mystery. It's more of a thriller. It's called Never Let Go, and it's set in the southern tier of New York State, the Finger Lakes area. The series is set in kind of a fictional central New York, which is where I worked during my reporting days.
Oh, nice. Do any of your real-life stories end up in your books?
Not necessarily my real-life stories, but I do draw from my experience quite a bit in it. For instance, Lisa mentions at one point how firefighters put her through a test with a dead body, bringing it past her. That actually did happen to me.
Oh,
They kind
wow.
of got me in a position where I was up against a fire truck and I couldn't move, and then they brought this body past me that was pretty mangled, and I could tell they were looking for my reaction, so I worked really hard to have none. Little things like that show up in the novel. Experiences that happen to reporters all the time when they're covering crime.
Yeah, that's too good. That would have had to end up in a book. Looking at your other books, some of your true life things do end up in books, like Raising Identical Twins.
That's a self-published book. I wrote that as a blog initially, and I quit writing it when my twins turned 6. I wrote the blog because I found there was really nothing out there that was strict